Hi, my name's Zoe and I'm one of the fitness specialists at Mummy Space Surrey, and I'm just going to talk to you today a bit about returning to exercise after you've had a baby, whether that was 6 weeks ago, 6 months ago, or even 6 years ago. This is still going to be relevant to you. And I'll start by saying that, not every body, pregnancy, delivery and recovery is the same. Everybody is different, so everyone's journey back to fitness is going to be very different. And because of that, I'm not going to reel off a load of exercises that you should or shouldn't be doing, because what's appropriate for someone may be quite different for someone else. But instead, what I am going to give you is some things to think about and how you go about returning to exercise in general, and some tips that you need to be considering as you go along your journey. The first thing is that I'd like to point you in the direction of two blogs that have been written before by some of my colleagues in the Mummy space. There's one about pelvic floor exercises from Lisa and Nikki, which is really good, and that you need to be doing, well, generally and for life, but definitely as soon as you've had your baby and thinking about returning to exercise. And similarly, there was one from that Anna wrote about returning to exercise, which covers the sort of the stages and when you want to get back to sort of more traditional exercise, which I'm going to talk to you a bit more about now. So what I want you to think of is whenever you start any kind of fitness program or venture or whatever, you build up to it. So you don't sign up to a marathon and then immediately go and run 26.2 miles. You build up gradually your mileage and distance over time, so you're ready for race day when it comes around. And similarly, if you wanted to start a strength training program, you just suddenly wouldn't rock up at the gym and pick up a 50 kg barbell. You would start with your body weight exercises, make sure you're confident in the movements before lifting heavier weights and progressing your load that way. And returning to exercise like post baby is no different from that, really. And as frustrating as that may seem, if you are an avid exerciser pre-pregnancy or even throughout your pregnancy, sort of seemingly going back to the beginning once you've had your child can seem a bit frustrating. But your body is very different from before, and so you need to treat it differently and respect it and help it get back to its full fitness in a way that's going to help it rather than cause you potentially more problems or injury. So how would you go about building back up to something? So I'm going to use an example of running, because running is something that some mums just love to do and really want to do and are desperate to get back to. I want you to think about is breaking down that movement into the non-impact versions of that exercise. So the reason for that is impact is the thing that puts the most load and most pressure through your joints and your core, and we need to build your body back up to that rather than going out full throttle and let's put loads of pressure and impact through a body that's basically not ready for it. So you need to get your body essentially fit to run, and how you might go about doing that is think about some of the movement patterns associated with running. So one of them would be a lunge. So you would start with your basic lunge. Can you do this basic lunge, and once you can feel stable through that movement, you've got good kind of core connection and core breathing through that exercise, you can start to do things like add load or by little weights, or you can increase the depth and the range of movement through that lunge. Then as you progress and you feel strong in those movements, you can start to do things like perhaps like a walking lunge, which is a right burner for the old thighs, and then as you could start to add stairs and steps and using your arms like a running action, and also doing things like potentially adding a hop at the end and then a jump. So you build up to the stage at which you add impact to that movement. So hopefully that gives an example of how you would build up to something like running So you get the strength in the movement before you add the impact and all that pressure and load that it puts through your core and your body. The other two things that I want you to think about when you're exercising, deciding what exercises and what level or modifications or ways of doing that exercise are appropriate for you. And there are two questions that I want you to ask yourself. One is, does it feel okay? And secondly is, does it look okay? So taking the first one, does it look okay? Does it feel okay? By this I mean, well, first thing first, is it causing you extreme pain? Not the type of pain that just means you're working hard, but if it is, a pain as in a real hurty pain and big, discomfort, particularly here I'm talking about through the back, through the stomach, through the pelvic floor, through your core essentially. If it feels heavy and painful, that exercise is a signal to your body that that exercise is not quite right for you, and you either need to stop doing that exercise or modify it or do a different version of that exercise that does feel comfortable. And similarly as well, when thinking about does it feel okay, can you still retain a connection and engagement through your core through that exercise? So can you still have a little lift through your pelvic floor, and can you feel that sort of tension that you can create through your core and your tummy essentially, so that you can still breathe and still move through that movement, but it's creating a bit of tension and stability through your body. And rather that if you lose that connection and lose that tension, everything's a bit floppy and a bit wobbly and unstable in that movement, again, it's probably something that it isn't quite right for you at this time. You need to take things back a notch and build back up to that. The second thing that I want you to ask yourself is, does it look okay? And so this involves potentially looking at yourself in the mirror or videoing yourself, or also observing what is going on within your body yourself. I want you to first kind of look at what's going on with your tummy, particularly there's the midline of your stomach. When you have a baby, quite often there's degrees of separation of your abdominal muscles and a weakening of that midline between those stomach muscles. And what we want to observe is what is going on in that midline. And so if you see a sort of a doming or coning up of either through that midline or of the stomach, of the muscles around it, again, it's a signal that you're not managing the pressure of that movement, that movement is creating within your core. So it's inadvertently putting pressure down on your pelvic floor and potentially out on a weakened ab wall. So again, it's a signal that is potentially something that's too much for you. And yeah, similarly, if you can see little bulges down out through your midline, it's a sign that you're not managing pressure that well. So you need to take it back a notch as well. The other thing that you need to look at is whether you can hold the correct sort of technique for that exercise through that exercise. So, for example, if you were lifting something up overhead, a signal that it wouldn't be you working with something that was the right kind of weight for you would be if you started to lean back and lift up the ribs and start basically probably hurting parts of the body that you don't really, you don't want to hurt, but also you'll start working the wrong parts of your body because it's thrown out of an alignment or the correct alignment that we would want to keep it in. So you want to be able to lift that weight up overhead and maintain, keep your ribs nicely over your pelvis, so you've got that kind of good connection with your core and it feels strong and stable and supporting you through that movement. So again, like if you can't keep the right technique through an exercise, or you're struggling and straining to do something, again, it's a signal to you that is too much for your body at this time. So hopefully I've given you a couple of questions to ask yourself about what is the right type of exercises to be doing for your body and the right level. And any questions on that, please do get in touch. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you and goodbye.